Puerto Rico's housing market is exploding. Prices have gone up by double digits over the last couple of years, and it's priced a lot of people out of the market who have wanted to buy homes. So what's going on here? Is it just Puerto Rico? Is there something bigger going on here? Let's talk about it. Okay, first let's talk about the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people want to blame Act 60, which used to be Act 20 and 22, which are the tax breaks for rich Americans who want to move to Puerto Rico and either run a business, or they're some kind of crypto king, or they are day traders and they're avoiding capital gains taxes. And the other big one is Airbnbs is the big one that a lot of people want to blame for the housing prices in Puerto Rico. So let's do this. Let's zoom out. Let's kind of zoom out from Puerto Rico a little bit, and let's look at housing on the global scale. One thing that I know for certain is every single person in every single city, in every single town on the planet Earth thinks that the housing prices where they live have exploded, and they want to blame somebody. And most of them want to blame Airbnb, and most of them want to blame immigrants. And whether those immigrants are rich Americans for tax breaks, or they're illegal immigrants, or they're some other immigrant coming from some other reason. Airbnbs and immigration are the two big things people want to blame for housing prices. And everybody in the world, if you're in Toronto or Dubai or Madrid or San Juan or Atlanta or Austin, Texas, or Las Vegas or Los Angeles or Vancouver, Canada, this is true in all of these places, and I could just go on listing names for 10 minutes and it will still be true. So that's important to note, that it's, everybody in Puerto Rico thinks it's only happening in Puerto Rico because, that's where they live and that's the housing prices they see, and they're not studying market trends in Madrid, Spain, which I'm actually filming this video in Spain right now. And they're actually doing demonstrations in Madrid and Barcelona and Mallorca, which is an island that Spain, a territorial, it's just an island that's part of Spain. And they're shooting tourists with squirt guns, and they're protesting tourists because they think that tourists are the problem, because the tourists are staying in the Airbnbs and the people who are buying the Airbnbs aren't Spanish people. And they think if they could convince this tourist not to come here, that all of a sudden that will make the Airbnb owners go broke and they'll have to put their houses on the market, and then then that'll fix the housing problem. So they're going against tourists. That's one way they're battling it in some of these places. And they're doing this in Puerto Rico a lot too. They're saying that the gringos are coming and there's too many Airbnbs. And it's funny, like, if we look at migrational flows from the island, there are about 30,000 people of Americans who have moved to Puerto Rico in the last 5 years, and there's been about 100,000 people who have exited and moved back to the mainland or America. I'm not trying to make this some sort of a racial issue, because it's not. One of my favorite t-shirts, it says I'm Puerto Rican, and it has a white person and then a little bit darker to a black person. And Puerto Rico is not a race. America is not a race. So calling people gringos is not a racial slur, and calling people Puerto Ricans is not a racial slur. These are two different places in the world. But when Puerto Rico gets mad at the gringos coming to Puerto Rico, they say, we don't want you here. You're not allowed in Puerto Rico. This is our country. But then if you say anything about Puerto Ricans, they say, well, we're Americans. But the truth is, 30,000 people have moved to Puerto Rico in the past from the mainland, and 100,000 have left. And I know the Hurricane Maria, and the hurricanes were a big part of that, and people left, and people are starting to come back now. But not everybody left because of the hurricanes, and people did leave because they wanted to try to make a better life. And so if it's so cheap and wonderful in Puerto Rico, it doesn't make sense for the Puerto Ricans to go to America. And the other thing is, the rich Americans who are coming to Puerto Rico are not displacing lower income renters. Like, somebody who's coming for Act 60, the break-even point for Act 60 is about $250,000 a year. So they're not looking to move into a barrio in the middle of Utuado to live in a 800 square foot house. It's just, people want to blame the Act 60 people, but the Act 60 people are not causing the problem because they're moving to Dorado. Sure, some of these people are moving to San Juan and to Condado and some of those places. So, everywhere is going to be different on the island as it is in the world. But it's just, you have to look at the actual economics of the people who are coming and the people who are going. And if there's more people leaving the island that are coming from the mainland, there should be a housing surplus. So that doesn't make sense to say that 30,000 people came here, 100,000 people left. We have a housing shortage. We need to stop people from coming to the island. That argument doesn't hold water when you look at the actual numbers of the inflow and the outflow of the people moving back and forth between Puerto Rico and the mainland United States. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about is this isn't just a housing crisis. This is an asset crisis, because it's not just housing prices. It's also car prices, it's stock market prices, it's gold prices, it's expensive art prices, it's yacht prices, it's any asset, any investable asset prices have gone up. Look at stock market prices over the past 5 years. Look at gold prices over the past 5 years. All of these asset classes are going up. That's the reason everyone in the world thinks that housing prices where they live are going up. And I'll put a good side note in here. One good thing about YouTube and the internet and people who write articles and things is you can go back and look at their history. And I was one of the very, very few people since COVID who said that that event was going to make prices go up. I was making videos since a month into COVID saying housing prices are going to go up. Every single YouTuber and blogger and mainstream media outlet was saying housing prices were going to crash. And I was the only one saying prices were going to go up. And you can go back on my YouTube channel and you can go back 3, 4 years at least. I don't know if you can go back 5 years, however far you can go back, and you can look at my videos and you can watch me saying housing prices are going to go up. And you can look in the comment sections of everybody telling me that I was an idiot because the truth is everybody wanted prices to go down. And this is part of the problem. Everybody lives in their own echo chamber. And if you want prices to go down and you read content and you look at YouTube videos that say prices are going to go down, the algorithm thinks this person wants to see content about the market crashing, and it just feeds you more information about the market crashing. And when somebody says the market's not going to crash, you've never heard that before, and you think that person is an idiot because all you've seen is that prices are going to crash, and we all live in our own little echo chamber of information that we want to be fed, and the algorithm just keeps feeding it to us. I think that's part of the reason the world keeps getting more divided. If I think the sky is blue and you think the sky is red, and all you do is read articles and watch YouTube videos about why the sky is red, and I come along and say the sky is blue, you're like, what is this guy, an idiot? How could he not know the sky is red? Because everything I read says the sky, or maybe it says the sky is going to turn red in 6 weeks. So if this guy's never heard that before, he's an idiot. And that's part of the problem. And that's part of the reason that all these people got priced out of the market. The geniuses in the macro and the economists and the mainstream media have been feeding all this information that the market's going to crash, and people consume that, and then they believe that, and they waited, and then they waited, and they waited, and the prices went up, and the prices went up, and now they're all priced out of the market. So that's a big problem. But the point I want to make, the takeaway here, is that it's not just housing, it's all asset classes. And the reason that all asset classes are going up is because more people have more money, and they're investing it into asset classes. And we actually live in a pretty efficient society. We don't have a lot of waste. We don't have a lot of extra in anything. That's why there's not just deals out there to be scooped up all the time. When markets are crashing, like in 2008, we had an excess, and it's a very small period in time where there was excess, and people who had money at the time could scoop in and get those deals while everybody else was going broke. But in normal society, we live in a pretty efficient system where there's just not a lot of excess, and you can't just scoop in and find these secret deals that don't exist and nobody knows about because they aren't there, because it's efficient. And everybody's competing for the same asset classes, whether it's houses, stocks, used cars. Remember all they said was how we had a used car shortage? Like, how does that even happen? And here's the problem. Like I said, mainstream media, they talk about the wrong thing, but here's the reason that they do it. They don't know how to zoom out and see the big picture, like I said in the beginning of this video, because if you zoom out and you see all asset classes are going up, you go, oh, okay, we have a shortage of investable assets, and so everybody's competing for the same one, so all the prices go up. It's like if I walked into a grocery store and I said, and everything in the grocery store is 30% more expensive, and I pick up some bananas and I say, why is these bananas more expensive? And this economist who's a specialist in bananas will say, well, because of the economic conditions in Costa Rica, where 23% of the bananas come from, they had a banana spider down there that killed a bunch of the crops, and now they have to blah, blah, blah. And I say, well, what about this coffee? Why is this coffee 30% more expensive? And then they bring on an economist who's a specialist in coffee and says, well, you see, there's a fair trade thing going on right now. So we can only buy coffee from a small region in the Congo, and it's really driving prices up. And then I pick up eggs, and everybody wants to concentrate on the eggs. And I was like, well, why are these eggs 30% more? Well, you see, there's supply chain issues, and we had a bird flu scare, and everybody wants to talk about every single thing in the grocery store and tell you why it's 30% more expensive, and you think there's an egg crisis, and you think there's a coffee crisis, and you think there's a this crisis. But the truth is, there's a macroeconomic crisis, and that's what's happening in the asset classes. As investors, as a certain class of investors here's the difference between rich people and poor people. If I give $1 million to a rich person, he's going to invest it into asset classes. Let's say it's into real estate, but he's not just going to buy whatever you can buy for $1 million. It's going to say a 10-unit apartment building, but that wouldn't be realistic. But he's going to buy, what he's going to do is he's going to buy 10 houses that he's going to use leverage, and he's going to get mortgages on them, and he's going to scoop up 10 houses. And if, poor people, you give them $1 million and they're like, oh, I'm going to get a Ferrari, and I'm going to get a boat. I'm going to give my mom $20,000. I'm going to do this. And that's the difference. Like, the investors, the more money they have, the more assets they're buying. And it leaves the rest of the people scrounging for the scraps. So this is my 10,000 height view of why there's a housing crisis everywhere in the world, and Puerto Rico included. Okay, so what's the solution? I don't know if I have an exact solution. It's clear Puerto Rico does have its own set of challenges. I always say all real estate is local. So, reasons that prices are going up in Puerto Rico are not the same that reasons are going up in Austin, Texas. Building costs are high on the island. There are people coming for the tax incentives and there's other things, but those people are competing for a different kind of real estate. And the same with the Airbnbs. Like I said before, San Juan and Condado and Rincon, in the tourist areas, yes, definitely Airbnbs are driving up prices. But the other thing is, it's just to build new housing. Who's going to build affordable housing? Like, investors aren't going to build affordable housing. They're not going to buy apartment buildings and turn them into low rent buildings where they have the hard time collecting rents and rents are lower. Investors are in it for a profit, and they have to make money. And the more money they can make, the more likely they are to invest in it. And the higher end luxury real estate market is where they're going to make more money. That's how economics works. So the only way to get low income housing, to get big blocks of housing, would be to have the government build them. And let's be honest, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. They could go in and refurbish a lot of the vacant bigger buildings. You drive around San Juan, you see big 10-story buildings with the windows all blown out. The government could go in and do something with some of those types of buildings. I don't know the ownership structure or who owns those buildings or what the story is. But the truth is, if you're feeling the pinch, if you feel like you're priced out of the market, the best thing you can do is save your pennies and buy a smaller house than maybe what you want to get your foot in the door. Because if prices are going to continue going up, this is what I told people 5 years ago that told me I was an idiot. I said, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. So if you could get a house that's a little bit smaller than you want, maybe a little bit farther from the beach or a little bit farther from your work or wherever, whatever the case, if you can find something that needs some work and you can learn how to do tile or do some plumbing or electrical or fix a roof and get some sweat equity into the house, that's your best bet if you're feeling the pinch that prices are too expensive. And that's for everybody on the planet, everywhere in the world that is having a hard time getting into the housing market. There's a lot of people saying it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy right now. In a lot of markets, that's true, only because rent prices haven't caught up to housing prices because housing prices went up so fast. And they're going to. It's the people like me who have owned rental properties for the past 10 years that haven't raised my rents on my long-term rentals because I have good tenants and they pay, and I don't think it's fair to make big jumps in their rent. So most of my long-term rental tenants are paying way below market rents. But when they move out, guess what? My prices are going to go back up to where they should be. because my insurance has gone up, my taxes have gone up. Some of my properties have been zoned into flood zones that didn't used to be. Everything costs more to fix. Air conditioning units cost more to fix. Refrigerators don't last as long as they used to. Stoves don't last as long as they used to. Everything's gotten more expensive across the board for everyone, for investors, for landlords, for everybody. So if you think it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy now, I have a feeling rent prices are going to catch up to home prices. I don't think home prices are going to come crashing down. We've seen maybe a 5% decrease in some places. They say in San Juan, I just was reading, prices have come down 5% in the past year. But if they've gone up 60% in the past 3 years, then they went back down 5. We're not really gaining very much ground with any price reductions or market crashes that are coming. So my advice is, if you could try to get into a house, I would do what I can to do it. I'm not a financial guru. I'm just a guy on YouTube saying, like, I like buying houses and I think it's a safer bet than renting, because you at least know what your payment's going to be. And I know there's a lot of complaints about gentrification and people getting boosted out of their properties. And that's true to a certain degree, but it's only your taxes and your insurance that can go up. These people who have lived in these houses in these little neighborhoods for 30 years or 50 years, they don't have a mortgage. So they just have to be able to cover their taxes and their insurance. And my taxes and insurance in Puerto Rico are much more affordable than they are in the mainland. So they're not leaving Puerto Rico to go to Florida, I can tell you that. It's way more expensive in Florida. So that's my 2 cents on why the housing market is expensive in Puerto Rico, but it's not a Puerto Rican problem, it's a worldwide problem. Whenever I do a video like this, I get a lot of hate in the comments, and people tell me that I'm a gringo and I should never own property, which goes back to what I said before about Americans and Puerto Ricans going back and forth from Florida to Puerto Rico. It seems like it should be a free flow, but it seems like there's a lot of animosity one way. And I want to make a caveat here also, that it's only the people online. I've never had a person in real life give me any sort of grief. I love Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Ricans. That's why I have a house there. That's why I love to go there. And it's only keyboard warriors usually who say those things. So I just want to make that a caveat, that the real people in Puerto Rico are wonderful people, and that I mean no disrespect at all. So leave me a comment down below. Let me know why you think prices in Puerto Rico are high. I'm gonna also get grief about how I say Puerto Rico. I always do. That's okay. You can leave me a comment about that down below. But I haven't done a video about the Puerto Rican housing market for a while, so leave me a comment down below. Let me know why you think prices are high, if you think they're coming down, if you're waiting, if you're buying, if you're investing, if you're moving there. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Thanks. And if you like this video, go watch this video next.